take his gun and then I shot him twice with it. That's all I did, other than me and him fighting, around the car outside. But I had never even touched a shovel.
So I'm not accusing you of hitting him with a shovel. I'm just saying that was one of the things that was a fact in this case.
Yeah, but that's the fact that my brother did. I didn't.
I understand. I'm not accusing you of that. I'm saying that you acknowledge that you took his gun, you took the chief's gun, and you shot him with it. And I just would note that when you described that, you just said, "I just took the chief's gun and shot him twice." It's not just.
It's been nearly 40 years, but the pain still remains for the family of Claremont Police Chief Greg Lang, killed in 1988 while responding to a domestic call. Andrew Salinas and his brother Robert beat Lang with a shovel, and then Salinas shot Lang in the back while he was down.
And Andrew still took it upon himself to take Greg's gun, put it on his back, or right just within an inch of his back, and he pulled the trigger, making sure that Greg wouldn't survive.
Salinas was convicted of murder and sentenced to life with the possibility of parole. He last went in front of the parole board in 2023, and now, next month, he will be going in front of a parole board for a 5th time. Dodge County Sheriff Scott Rose has been a strong advocate for the family, saying that Salinas needs to stay in prison. He's asking for the public's help sending letters to the parole board.
So for these families, it's just brutal to have to go through this over and over again. They sentenced this family to life without their father, without their husband, this community without their police chief. And the family, this community, and law enforcement believes that Salinas should be serving no less time for that crime.
And for the first time, this parole hearing will be open to the public.
And that's true. Minnesota is now available to the public, and that's why we're going to begin showing Minnesota more often. And it is wild to me, in my opinion, that a cop killer could be up to their 5th opportunity at parole. I always thought that cop killers would spend the rest of their life in prison, but as it comes down to it, depends on the state. Some states don't take the lives of those who are put in charge to protect us that seriously. It seems like Minnesota falls under that bucket, or at least the legislation at the time was written that way. Now, it is interesting in this case is that the chair of this parole board, he was a former police chief himself. So I don't think he's going to take it easy on this cop killer. But we're going to watch the parole hearing, all unpack it with details of the crime at the end. And by the way, he's got a long record while locked up, including an escape. So one might really wonder, how is it possible? How is it justice that a man can re-victimize the family time and time and time, up to the 5th time again since taking their loved one? But hey, according to him, all he did was shoot him twice in the back. What's the big deal, right? Anyways, with that, let's jump in.
Good afternoon, everyone. Rebecca Holmes Larson, Executive Officer of Hearings and Release and the Supervised Release Board. We're here today to review Mr. Andrew Salinas, who is present by video at the Minnesota Department of Corrections facility in Lino Lakes. Mr. Salinas also has his daughter and advocate, Ms. Crystal Salinas, participating today. Here with me at the Minnesota Department of Corrections Central Office is our Commissioner and Chair of the Supervised Release Board, Mr. Paul Schnell. The other board members that are present are Member Andrew Larson, Member Christine Bray, Member Cheryl Ramstad, and we also have Member Joe Earhart on the screen by video. Our records indicate that on July 5th of 1988 at approximately 2:04 a.m. in the city of Claremont, Minnesota in Dodge County, Claremont Police Chief Gregory Lang responded to a domestic disturbance call. When additional responding Dodge County Sheriff deputies arrived, they found Chief Lang in the alley near the residence. He was visibly injured and his squad car was not at the location. Squad car was later located near the town of Blooming Prairie, Minnesota, where another vehicle had been reported stolen. The second vehicle was located by Missouri State Police, and Mr. Salinas was taken into custody. A .22 caliber handgun with blood on it was located under the seat of the vehicle. Mr. Salinas had also stolen a .357 Magnum believed to belong to Chief Lang. This was also recovered. An autopsy revealed that Chief Lang suffered skull fractures and died from 2 gunshot wounds. On January 5th of 1989, Andrew Salinas was sentenced to life imprisonment by Dodge County District Court after having been found guilty of the offense of first-degree murder. At the time of his sentencing, a life sentence had a minimum term of imprisonment of 17 years. Mr. Salinas was initially reviewed by a commissioner and advisory panel on June 3rd of 2002. He was continued for a future review after 10 years. Mr. Salinas was reviewed 3 more times and continued for a future review each time. Today's review by the board represents Mr. Salinas' 5th review after serving approximately 37 years of incarceration. His minimum parole eligibility date on his life sentence occurred on July 5th of 2005. Thank you. I turn this matter over to the board. Commissioner.
Good afternoon, Mr. Salinas. How are you today?
Afternoon, I'm well.
I'd like to start by asking you to tell us what you'd like to see happen as a result of today's meeting.
If you don't mind, I'd like to read what I wrote down.
That's perfectly fine.
First, I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone that is here today. And we are here today because of my actions and my bad choices that I made 37 years ago. There is not a day that goes by that I don't think about what I did. I took Gregory Lane's life, and by doing that, I caused a lot of pain and suffering to the Lane family. I would like to say to Gregory Lane's family that I am very sorry for what I did. I know that just saying that I am sorry is not enough for taking your loved one away. Gregory Lane was a police chief and a servant to the public, a husband, a father, and much more. A very important man to his family and the community. I have talked about this horrible crime that I committed at most of the programs that I've attended, like AA meetings, the treatment program, the lifer groups, restorative justice, and the Prison Fellowship Academy. And after 37 years, it is still hard for me to talk about this crime. I took a man's life, and for this I have to answer to God, because God is the one that gives life, and God is the only one that should take it away. There is nothing I can do or say that is going to ease the pain that the Lane family is going through today. And I can completely understand why they wouldn't want me to be released from prison. I know I can't undo what I did, but I am doing everything in my power to be a better person and try to make a difference in someone's life. I have worked hard on myself by taking programs that are helping me live a positive life in prison and will certainly help me live a healthy, productive life out in society. One of these programs is restorative justice that I have been involved in for many years. I know that the 37 years that I've been incarcerated is punishment for the crime I committed. It is not restorative justice. Restorative justice to me is being accountable for what I did, facing up to what I have done, and understanding the impact of the harm I've caused. I know I caused a lot of pain and suffering to the Lane family and the community. Since my last hearing 2 years ago, I have since then went through a year-long program called Prison Fellowship Academy, which is a Christian-based program that is focused on 6 core values: integrity, restoration, responsibility, community, affirmation, and productivity. This program made me see things clear, and I see and feel the changes that Jesus Christ made in my life. I am also a member of the Restorative Justice Council, and I am helping facilitate the Restorative Justice 101 classes. I also attend AA meetings on Monday nights, and I am a mentor for the COD program. I chose to be a mentor because I believe that people can change, and I believe by sharing my experiences of incarceration, it just might make them see life and their freedom in a different way. I have a daughter named Crystal Salinas that is sitting right next to me. She lives by Rochester, Minnesota. She was only 4 months old when I came to prison. She has been with me through all these years. I would like the chance to spend some time with her and really get to know her and my grandchildren. I am asking the Supervised Release Board for an opportunity to move on to a minimum facility like Red Wing or Faribault for about 6 months to a year. Then, if I am allowed, I would like to go to work release at the Damascus Way Halfway House in Rochester, Minnesota. I chose Red Wing, Faribault, and Damascus Way Halfway House because all of these facilities are close to where my family lives, my daughter and my grandchildren. And it would be really close for them to come and visit me. Once I get established at the Damascus Way Halfway House, I plan on finding a church I can call home and be of service to. I believe that I have the ability to give back to my community with my cooking skills. I have my ServSafe certification, and I have been cooking and baking for over 20 years. If this church community will allow me to volunteer my time to cook for them, this could be one way that I could give back to my community. I would also like to go around to jails and juvenile homes and give my testimony about my experience while incarcerated, and how Jesus Christ and the Restorative Justice Program played a valuable part in changing my life around. The reason I would like to talk to juveniles is because I am hoping to change their way of thinking while they are still young, and maybe they might hear something from my testimony that will change their life around. I want to thank everyone for hearing me out today.
Let me start by asking you what makes you feel that you are ready to be released.
Well, I'm not the same person I was 37 years ago. You know, I have changed my way of thinking. I have changed my life around completely. You know, I know I can be an asset to any community that I'm allowed to go to. You know, I've been in the restorative justice program for many years, and I know I can take that to the streets with me. I know I can make somebody's life a lot better just by helping them out, just by being there, just by doing restorative justice things with them, you know.
How do you it probably doesn't surprise you that there are many people who do not believe that you should be paroled. I mean, many people. What do you say to them? I mean, what's the justification that that you think warrants you to have the opportunity to be in the community?
Well, for one thing, I'm not a violent man. Sure, I committed a violent crime. That was 37 years ago, but that's not who I am today. You know, when they could look at my past discipline record, there's no record of me being violent even in here, for the past 17 years, 18 years. And they have nothing to fear. I don't know why. I mean, I understand that, they don't know me, so they still think that I'm still that same person that I was back then. But, and I can't prove them wrong unless I'm out there to show them that I'm not that person anymore.
You, I mean, you had a bit of notoriety along the way with some of your antics while you were incarcerated, right? We were involved in a Stillwater incident, escape attempt, right?
Right. That was back in 2008.
One of the times that you and I had a chance to meet, you had in one of these hearings, you were dating somebody on the outside, or you had a relationship with somebody on the outside. Do you recall that?
I remember. Yes, sir.
What
Alicia, I think that was her name.
what did you learn from that? Maybe the board doesn't know about that, so maybe you can describe a little bit about what happened.
Well, the main thing I learned from that is that I cannot trust people right away. Because I had gotten to know her for, I think it was like 6 months, and I put I used to trust people until they did something wrong that I couldn't trust them, and I believed everything that she was saying to me, and that was wrong on my part, for not finding out who this person really was before I had any kind of relationship with her. And I don't know, she was trying to find ways. I thought that she was trying to find ways to help me. But she wasn't going about it the right way. And I know she was saying that she contacted you and she contacted the warden in West City, and she also told me that she didn't like what the people were saying in Dodge County about me, and that I wasn't that person that they were talking about. That they didn't know me, that they shouldn't talk to me, they shouldn't talk about me that way. And I said, don't worry about what they're saying. That's their opinion, and I got to do the things that I have to do in here, to make myself better, and to whenever I do get a chance to be out in society again, I am ready for that. So, don't worry about what people out there are saying. Well, she took it upon herself to continue that, and continue listening to what the people were saying out there about me, and I don't know, I guess she contacted the victims, and she might have contacted you. I didn't know that until you told me that she called you. I know she said she was going to write you a letter, but she never told me she was going to call you, and she never told me nothing about that she was going to contact the victims, and that's something that I told her that you never should do. She went ahead and did it anyway, without my knowledge of it. I didn't know about that until you told me about it at my hearing. And after that hearing,
she had contacted me, yes.
yeah. And after that hearing, that's when I went back to my unit and I called her and I told her, you know what? This is the last time that we're going to talk. I'm sorry I have to end this relationship with you because I cannot trust you. I asked you before not to even contact these people when you did. So that broke the trust that I had with you. So I cannot have a relationship with you, and I ended that relationship there and then.
So why do you think I bring this up now? What would be the reason for me to bring this up? Do you have any idea why I would ask you about it?
At this time, no, I don't, because she's no longer a part of my life at all.
I understand that she's not, but when we think about the lesson learned, right? And you know, you put a lot of stock. You said, you know, she was there to help you, and you were facing a decision about your eligibility for release.
Right.
And what it causes me to question and wonder about is the influence of other people. And that remains a concern. While you have not had discipline recently, you know, I go back to the thinking about the crime itself, and you know your role in that. Your brother was your co-defendant in that, and then I think about the Stillwater incident. I don't know if you were, as I recall, you're not the mastermind in that deal, but you were a participant. And so I worry about putting you in the community and your ability to make fully independent decisions and to place high levels of trust in other people. Explain to me why that should not be a concern.
Well, I am going to surround myself with more positive people, people that I can get to know and that I can get to trust. You know, like right now, I'm talking to Pastor Paul, and he's from the Autumn Ridge Church in Rochester. You know, he's like my spiritual advisor. You know, that's what he asked me to call him, because he said I will introduce you to people that are going to help you out here, that are gonna take their time out of their life to make sure that you're well and you're well taken care of. You know, he says, so those are the kinds of people that I'm going to surround myself with. And I don't, I made a bad decision in trusting this woman. I mean, but sometimes you have to trust people, you know, give them a chance. And maybe I gave the wrong person a chance. And that's what happened. But that's not something that, you know, I learned from that, you know, so that's not something that I'm going to do anymore. You know, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to take my time and get to know the person well before I put my trust in them.
I've seen, you know, your letter, and you have identified a lot of, you know, family members and so forth that are, and you know, your spiritual advisor as well as the people who can be, you know, positive influences. What and where and maybe who are the risk factors? What are the things that you need to stay away from?
Well, the most important thing I got to stay away from is alcohol and people that drink alcohol. You know, and that's there's ways to do that. You know, and I've learned ways to do that. I don't have a desire to drink alcohol anymore. You know, it's not. I don't even think about it. That's not an option for me. And you know, but I do have a backup plan if I even get a thought of drinking alcohol. I got my AA family, I got my spiritual family, the church that I'm going to belong to. Those are going to be the people that I go to for support. I'm not going to go to support for some people that are drinking all the time and throwing parties and stuff like that. That's not any kind of support for me, or that's not any kind of support that I want. I'm trying to make something of my life, with my family, with my daughter and my grandkids. I'm trying to be able to leave something behind, some memories, some good memories, other than them remember me being in prison. I want to be able to have a house with my daughter and my grandkids, and so they can be a positive role model in their life. I just want to do some family things, with my family, and be able, and in the meantime, also be able to help out the community that I'm living in. That's all I think about doing. I don't think about drinking. I don't think about, having a relationship with a woman. That's not something that's important to me right now. What's important to me is my family, and maybe try to get out and spend some time with the years that I have left with them, and try to make something of my life.
Last thing for me, just does it strike you at all that the very thing that you want is what you took away?
I understand that. And, and it bothers me that, I think about that when I ask these things, I know I took Gregory Lane from his family, from his son, his wife, his brothers, his mother, and like I said, I'm deeply sorry for that. I can't undo that. All I can do is try to make a difference and pay it forward somehow with helping somebody else out. But I don't know what else I can do to repair that harm other than try to help people out.
I'm gonna just one more question here, just because you just said you have no interest, or at least now no immediate interest in a relationship. Is that what you said?
Right.
Like with as I understand it, what prompted the call to on the night that that you took the life of Chief Lane, there was a response to a domestic. Is that accurate?
Right.
Who was involved in that domestic?
The mother of my daughter, Desenia Ortega.
Okay. So the response from law enforcement was to that. That ended up in, as I understand it, first an assault on the chief, right? The shovel.
Well, I didn't know nothing about the shovel. That's another thing that they've been saying at my hearing all the time. And the community investigator has been going out and saying that I was the one that got a shovel and beat Chief Lane with a shovel, and while he was screaming for help. I never even knew there was a shovel involved until my brother told me that he had hit him with a shovel. I admitted I did take his gun and I shot him twice with it. But that's all I did, other than me and him fighting, around the car outside. But I never even touched the shovel.
So I'm not accusing you of hitting him with a shovel. I'm just saying that was one of the things that that was a fact in this case.
Yeah, but that's the fact that my brother did. I didn't do
I
it.
understand. I'm not accusing you of that. I'm saying that you acknowledge that you took his gun, you took the chief's gun, and you shot him with it. And I just would note that when you described that, you just said, "I just took the chief's gun and shot him twice." It's not just. So I'll leave it at that. Other questions that people may have?
I have a question for Mr. Salinas. I read somewhere that you have plans to eventually reside in Duluth if possible. Is that correct?
Excuse me, say this. I didn't understand it.
I read somewhere that you plan to move away from the community if you're released, that you do not plan to reside in the community where you committed your offense, that you plan to live away from that area. Is that correct?
In Rochester, well, Rochester, which would be the next county over.
Okay. What would you do if you faced rejection, hostility from whatever community you were to live in? How would you handle that?
Well, I try to get out of the situation even if I had to leave town.
And how would you attempt to get out of the situation? And I'm talking about ongoing problems, not just one person.
Yeah.
What if the community just did not want you there because of your crime?
Well, I would call for help. I would call law enforcement if I had to do that. If I couldn't talk the person or whoever I was having the confrontation with, if I couldn't talk it out with them, if we couldn't get something straight, then I would call 911 to help me out, because I don't want to get into a confrontation. I don't, I'm not looking to get into any more confrontations with anyone.
Oh, I understand that. Let me ask you another question. Describe for me the person you were at the time. I know it's not who we're seeing and talking with now. As you look back, describe who you were.
I was a young man that grew up with a lot of trauma in his life, by seeing his mother and father drinking and beating each other up. My dad, he abused my mother every weekend, beat her up. And I mean, there were some pretty bloody scenes that I got to witness. And I grew up watching that, and then alcohol. I started drinking since I was 5 years old, and alcohol became a part of my life also. So I had a lot of issues. I had a lot of issues going on in my life, and I didn't know how to deal with them. And when all this went down, when all this happened, this horrible crime happened, all the issues that I had going on inside of me came together and erupted, and I didn't know how to deal with it, and nobody even, there was no way out for me, because I didn't know how to deal with the problems, with the issues that I was facing, the anger issues, the trauma, the shame, the anger. Those was a lot of issues that I had to deal with, and that I didn't deal with until I got to prison. Here I deal with shame, anger, guilt, trauma. I have dealt with all these issues, and I've done everything that I could to better myself, so that if I ever am faced with one of those situations again, I know what to do.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Salinas, you've spoken about, and within the packet that I've reviewed, there was acknowledgement that your alcohol use played a significant part in the offense. that accurate?
That's right.
Do you think the offense would have happened had you not been drinking?
No,
Were you drinking when you were involved in the Stillwater incident?
at times I was. I was also going through,
So I guess where I'm going with it is, are there elements of, I guess I'll use kind of like corrections terminology. Are there elements of antisocial thinking that have played a role in any of the behaviors in which you've been involved? And what have you done, if anything, to address those things during your incarceration?
explain it, antisocial.
Antisocial would be thought processes that are kind of outside the norm, kind of maybe against typical societal values, those sorts of things, maybe a general disrespect or disregard for, it could be law enforcement or community values, community norms, those sorts of things. And that's kind of a broad description of, I guess, antisocial thinking.
I don't think I don't believe I'm antisocial because I mean, I get along with everybody. I try to help everybody out that needs help, that asks for my help, so I don't show no anger or no aggression towards anybody. So, I treat everybody with respect. I'm very humble. I'm a humble person. So I don't see myself as being antisocial.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. Could you, in 2016, in the PRT, it says you were held in administrative segregation for an undisclosed reason. What was the reason? Do you know?
Yes, I know. They put me in segregation. I was in the kitchen, working in the kitchen, and they put me in segregation because there was this person that told staff that I was getting too close to the staff there, to the staff that worked in the kitchen. They were mostly all ladies that worked there, and so they took his word on that, and they took me and another guy, and the other guy, they found out that he was having a relationship with one of the ladies there in the kitchen. But then they took me along with it, and they told me, he says, well, your name came up too, that said that you were getting too close to the females that were working there. And I said, no, I wasn't getting too close to him. I talk to him all the time because I have to talk to him to get the things I need to do the baking process, because I was in charge of a lot of graduation and a lot of baking and a lot of cooking, because I did the cooking and the baking most of the time. So I did have to deal with the staff quite a bit, so, and there was one helping me all the time to get the stuff I needed, and he thought that there was something going on, but I don't think he thought that there was anything going on. I think he made that up because the ladies, that's what the staff told me, the ladies didn't want nothing to do with him, and they told him that to stay away from her, and he got angry, and that's why he threw my name in there. And they put me in SAG for 30 days, but they said, well, we're going to check the cameras, we're going to do some investigation, and if you didn't do nothing, you have nothing to worry about. Well, I had nothing to worry about because I wasn't doing anything. And they let me back out.
Thank you. Couple more questions. In your interview with the psychologist in 2020, you described yourself as a happy drunk. In the most recent interview you had with the psychologist, you noted that alcohol played a significant part in your life, that you were frequently drunk and in lots of fights as an adult. So that's really inconsistent from 2020. What happened in those 5 years that made you change your narrative about yourself?
Well, I think there was something missing there, because I did tell her that I was a happy drunk. You know, I had a good time when I was drinking. I had no problems. But when somebody approached me and wanted, you know, and disrespected me or called me out, then we had a problem, you know, and we started fighting. And I think that's where it is, you know, but I never started a fight, you know, but every time that somebody wanted to fight, then with the alcohol in me, it was easy for me just to, you know, start fighting with them. But I never started any fights. I was always, you know, drinking, having a good time. I just had a problem with somebody, you know, getting on me and or you know, trying to beat me up or something, you know, start a fight with me. Then I'll just take it to the extreme, you know, which, you know, end up fighting with them and going to jail most of the time.
My
But
last
yeah,
question.
alcohol did have a big
My
play in
last
it.
question is your relationship with your brother. What's that like
My
now?
brother Robert,
The brother who was with you when you left to go to Missouri, and I believe he came back when you.
I haven't talked to him in years. I don't know, it's been maybe a few years. He's in somewhere in Texas, in San Antonio, and I don't talk to him hardly at all.
Thank you.
Mr. Salinas, you went through Prison Fellowship Academy in 2024, is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Last year,
So that was after you'd been incarcerated for about 19 years?
This last year.
no, I've been incarcerated 35 years.
Okay, I'm sorry, I looked at the wrong number. So when you went through PFA, describe what impact it had on you, the person you were before and the person you were after PFA.
Oh, after PFA, you know, because when I went to PFA, I started really digging deep in my soul to find out if there's anything bad in there. I wanted to bring it out and talk to my counselor about it and see how we can deal with it. And I had a very good counsel. Hal, he's a good counsel, and he taught me a lot of things about about the Bible. He taught me a lot of things about scriptures. You know, he helped me through the whole year of the Prison Fellowship Academy. You know, and it helped me see things more clear about life, about family, about thinking, how to think better, how to listen better. These are all the things that the PFA helped me with, you know, and I came out of there, you know, blessed to go there, because it changed a lot inside of me, that, you know, I can't describe it, but it was a feeling that, you know, I had Jesus Christ in my life, you know, and it's a feeling that you can't describe. You just have to feel it, you know. And but for the whole year, you know, he was by my side, and it made me a different person, you know. As of when I first went in, I was already changing, but I think PFA took all the programs that I had taken before and put them all in one. And I don't know, it was an awesome feeling for me, you know, to graduate that program. And then believe it made me even more humble.
Do you have any ongoing relationship with PFA now that you've graduated?
Yes, yes, I go to the communities, I go to graduations, you know, and my counselor said, if I need you to come in here, you know, to make a speech for me, you okay with that? I said, yeah, I'm fine, whenever you need me, just, you know where I'm at. So yes, I'm still in contact with them, and I go to their community meetings all the time on Mondays and Wednesdays.
Okay, thank you.
Just a couple quick follow-ups. Just to the question about talking to your brother, and you said you haven't talked to him in years, but you ended by saying you haven't talked to him hardly at all. I just want to make sure I'm clear. When's the last time you talked to your brother, Robert?
I want to say,
About.
I think it might have been 22 or 23.
Okay. What facilities have you been in
I've
over
been
the
in
course of time?
Oak Park, Stillwater, Rust City, Moose Lake, and now Lino Lakes.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Salinas? Otherwise, we'll go to his daughter. Ms. Salinas, thank you so much for being here today. Thanks for being support for your dad. I want to open the floor to you to provide your thoughts regarding the changes you've seen in him over time, and any thoughts you have that you feel would be important for the board to hear.
Okay, I'm going to start off by reading my letter
Sure.
that I brought. Okay, just says, hello everyone. My name is Crystal Salinas. I am the daughter of Andrew Salinas, and I want to thank the Supervised Release Board for giving me the opportunity to be here and to support my dad. I was 4 months old when my father went to prison. I am 37 years old now. I was raised mostly by my grandparents, and they both passed away several years ago. I have 2 sons and 2 daughters, and I have 3 grandsons. I raised my children myself after their father passed away in a car accident 4 years ago. After my children lost their father, I had to play the role of father and mother to my children. I know how hard it is to grow up without a father because I had to grow up with mine. So I can relate to my children. There is still a chance that I can have my father in my life, and as well as my children and grandchildren's life. This is my father's 5th hearing, and I hear how bad of a person my father is. I don't see a bad person in my father. I don't remember my father from 37 years ago. I was just a baby. I know who my father is today. He is a good man, a loving father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. If the Supervised Release Board will allow my father to get released or move him to a minimum facility where he could be closer to coming home, I have hope that one day my dad will be out and will be with me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Anybody have questions for Ms. Salinas? Okay.
I just have one. How regularly have you had an opportunity to see your father, and over what period of time have you been in contact with him? Either see or communicate with him.
I hadn't seen my dad in 12 years, and over the past, 2 months, I've been coming every weekend to see my dad. I just been going through a lot. I do have 4 children. I have 3 grandsons, and I have 2 on the way. I'm just busy, and I do live pretty close to 2 hours away from here. So if I have a chance to come and see my dad, I will. I also work in agriculture, been doing it over 10 years. So I'm pretty busy in summer. So whenever I have the time to come and see him, I will be here. Me and my daughter and my grandson.
Was there a time 12 years ago, before 12 years ago, when you saw him more regularly, or what was your interaction with your father then?
Pretty much seeing my dad maybe once, twice a year, if possible. You know, I mean, I try to come as often as I can, but I also have a family. And like I said, I do live 2 hours away, so it's pretty hard for me. And I am a only single parent, and I am an only child.
Do you have phone conversations with him?
Every day, 2 to 3 times a day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for being here today.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Anything else?
Well, I have one more question for Mr. Salinas. If you talk to your brother, say in 2023, where was he living at the time?
At that time, he was at my sister's house. I don't know where he was living at, but I talked to him at my sister's house
Where's your sister's house?
in Abernathy, Texas.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Salinas, before the board begins discussion and deliberation about next steps, I want to briefly open the floor to you to offer any final comments.
Yeah. The final thing that I would like to say is I have met all my directives that were given to me at my last hearing in 2023. And in the past 2 years, I have done a lot of work on myself. When I went through the Prison Fellowship Academy, I was digging deep in my soul to make sure I dealt with all the buried issues I had. I know that I am not perfect, but I have worked hard on becoming a better man. And I will continue to grow and work on myself because there is always room for improvement. And as God is my witness, I am not the same person that committed that horrible crime 37 years ago. That person is no longer with me. I am a new creation. And people, the society does not have nothing to fear for me. I only want to help out my community and my family.
Thank you. And with that, I will close the discussion during board discussion and deliberations. So we'll not entertain questions or interruptions. And with that, I'll open the to discussion by and among the board.
Commissioner, I have a question. Could you go through what happened? I just lost my train of thought. The first question you asked him was about his former relationship with his girlfriend who contacted you and reached out to a few others. Why did she reach out to you?
She felt as though he would not get a fair shake, that it was law enforcement related, that she was, he was going to, the plan was that he was going to live with her. And it was quite contentious and challenging. And in the end, Mr. Salinas did break from her, but it was created quite a bit of consternation just because of circumstances.
Could I just say something here about the tragic consequences of his crime to the community and how the victim's family and the community have suffered? But his institutional behavior over the past 2 decades reflects a very meaningful and sustained commitment to change. He's taken responsibility for his actions. He's addressed the factors that led up to it and shown that he's capable of making a safe transition toward a structured return to society. He It appears to me from my knowledge of prison programming and personal change that he's done as much as possible to make those changes. My perception.
I will just be honest that and I don't want to diminish this, but I remain concerned, and part of that concern is the potential. I think some of the lack of depth of connection that he may have outside. I do get concerned about his, my sense of like, what the relationships look like when he is outside the fence, so to speak. I hear this strong desire to be connected with family and that the value of that, and I don't want to diminish that. But I think the relative short time that this reconnection has happened, and again, this is just one which I really applaud and I think is worthwhile. But that reconnection seems somewhat recent, and I don't know that. That there may have been much look or work done to, this whole notion of trust. Like he talked about this issues around, who we can trust and who we can't. And while, he's in a controlled environment and I would say with PFA a quite positive environment. But I'm concerned about what that may look like outside of that this environment. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah,
But I'm sorry, I just wanted to say, but wouldn't a gradual transition through minimum for whatever time we felt was appropriate, wouldn't that give us a chance to observe actual changes in a secure environment?
I mean, potentially, the issue for me is becomes one of trust, right? And I think as Mr. Salinas pointed out about that, one of the lessons he learned was about trust, and the fact that that he placed a lot of trust in someone, and had developed an entire plan, a strategy around release that was, and so to be frank, I would like to see more depth in terms of the ability to trust that than to step him down. That's just me. And I had that experience, and I don't want that experience to, certainly each board member has to make their own decisions, but that is a concern for me.
I can tell you that it is very, very common for people in prison to have connections with someone on the outside and then discover that they have been deceived, and vice versa. This happens a lot, and to allow one person to overturn the work done during at least the last 20 years it does not seem like a good decision to me, to allow one person to have that power to disrupt a person's potential release plan. My opinion on that, but I have seen it quite a bit. Very similar cases, not unlike this at all. And it does not mean that the person is easily deceived, no more so than general society, these sorts of things are unfortunately extremely common where people are deceived, particularly in romantic situations. And as for his relationship with his daughter not being as close as maybe we would like for a family relationship to be, it isn't his doing, or his daughter's, considering the situation. I'm guessing that he would have chosen for it to be very different. Frequent visits.
I guess I echo some of the sentiments that the commissioner mentioned partially. I think, and I certainly respect Joe's comment that, that one isolated incident, assuming it is an isolated incident where, a person that Mr. Salinas had placed trust in ended up not, and he ended up being deceived. And again, don't know all of the details about it, but one of the things that I look at is the ability to, success is going to be based partially on the ability to identify people who are going to be, positive supports for you in the community. So that is something that I look at. I also kind of go back to the question that, I had posed, the reference earlier about, alcohol playing such a big role in the commission of the offense. And yep, that's true. But then, there was the subsequent, and granted, I understand, 17 years ago, but, the role in the escape attempt from Stillwater. For me, there are enough things that still continue that I would want to see more time, some additional time following completion of PFA to demonstrate, maybe some additional work on, kind of fostering and developing, a really robust support system that's going to be so important in the community. Those would be things that would be important for me. For the sake of, I guess, just facilitating additional conversation, I would make a motion at this point to deny parole, continue for 2 years. So I would make that motion.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
So there is a motion and a second. Discussion.
Well, I guess I'd like to see step down, and I don't think that's in your motion, Andrew, right? You want?
No.
Okay, I just want clarification. Thank you.
Are there things that you would like to see as part of this?
So I would like to see greater insight into the potential link that, I use the term antisocial thinking, antisocial cognitions. Other areas sometimes call it criminal thinking, but it's some of the deep rooted thought process that played a role in the behavior of the offense. So not only the offense, but then you also have that event at Stillwater, whether it's completion of some sort of cognitive behavioral therapy. Again, I know there's several different options, so I wouldn't specify a given one because I know that somewhat is dictated by facilities, but certainly completion of some additional programming. I think the release plan also, and I know as the release plan is, there has been some effort there. I think it may be beneficial to look at maybe some backup release plans, releasing in such close proximity to where the crime occurred may become problematic for long-term success, community acceptance. So I think, and I'm not saying that it couldn't happen. I'm just saying it may be beneficial for some additional work to develop a backup plan there. So I guess that would be kind of the foundation or a start of what some of those additional expectations are. And cultivating some additional support.
I certainly agree with that, Andrew, but I believe that that process could go along with the beginning stages of stepping down by going to minimum and work on the other part of that, because as I look over the long list of programming and also the engagement level throughout, I do not see what more he can do in medium. I believe that stepping down to minimum and beginning that process would be the best decision here, given what he has accomplished, where he is in terms of his life. I see nothing more in terms of prison programming that could contribute to further change. More cannot always make it better. I feel he's done everything that he can, everything it has to offer, and that if we're going to step him down, now is the time.
One of the things that PRT recommends as an alternative to step down process was moving to continue him at a medium, but potentially transferring facilities for vocational training. I didn't hear a real emphasis on training he's had or what he would be doing when he gets out. And while I was impressed with what he gained from Prison Fellowship Academy, that's not giving him something skill-wise to be able to rely on when he gets out.
And I mean, I respect what you say, Joe. I guess my motion is what it is. I mean, I think there's only been a motion. I haven't heard a second.
Yeah, there was a second.
Oh, was there a
There's
second?
motion.
I
There was a motion
apologize.
and a
I
second.
apologize.
And so, yeah, and I think, the transition options are, he could go access some different vocational options at Faribault, actually would be one of the options for accessing some of that as well. Which, the team could look at as part of this. So we have a motion and a second. And we'll call the vote. To the motion, Board Member Bray,
No.
Board Member Earhart,
Must be muted.
you can't hear
Is
you.
the motion to continue for 2 years? Did I hear that correctly?
Deny parole, continue for 2 years.
I oppose.
Okay. Board Member Larson,
Yes.
Board Member Ramstead.
Yes.
Schnell votes yes. By a vote of 3-2, the parole is denied. And with a 2-year continuance, and the programming as suggested with the addition just of, remaining discipline-free as a standard condition. All right, Mr. Salinas, we will prepare a letter that will be sent to you and detailing this. If you have questions, feel free to talk with your case manager there, and then we will get back in touch with you to clarify anything you may have questions about. Good luck to you.
And they denied parole. Thank goodness. Now, I mean, what the woman on the right, what's her name, was arguing for was that he be stepped down, that he'd be lowered to a minimum security prison. He's in a medium security prison. And this is different in Minnesota than what we see in all the other states that we cover. It is an interesting proposition. I think I do agree. I actually thought that she even had a point. Hey, it's like, go down to minimum. Let's see how he does. I mean, he does have an escape attempt in his jacket. Maybe in minimum, he just wouldn't be able to control his impulses, and he'd walk right out the front gate, because in many minimum security prisons, it's possible to do that. And hey, let's just see how he does. And the commissioner, who by the way was a chief of police himself, with 30 years in Department of Correction, he just said, no, I'm not even going to do that. I can't get over the fact that what he has in his jacket with the escape attempt, and the idea, I guess he just, with everything there, talking about the woman making the phone call, maybe he feels the same way I do, that his girlfriend reaching out to the victims, reaching out to him, wasn't just something that she did. It was maybe something that she was manipulated into doing. I know there's no evidence of that. There's no proof. One might argue, hey, they can go over all of his phone calls. They can maybe have found a way. If there's no proof, maybe that's proof. But I just don't buy it. Okay. I mean, you see enough of these parole hearings, you get a certain sense. There are certain people that are just so manipulative, and also just have no insight. They're kind of dumb. And he would actually think that somehow getting this woman to call the victims, to call the parole board, that she'd be able to talk them into seeing it his way. And that's, it was Joe, who was fighting, lobbying. You shouldn't judge a man because of his girlfriend. These things happen in relationships. But it was funny because she couldn't even, as she was talking also about her daughter, and how can we fault her daughter? We don't know. And it's like she wanted her cake and eat it too, by blaming it, by realizing as she was saying it, maybe it was the daughter that didn't want the relationship, that like she tried to back herself. Oh no, I mean, maybe it was just, who knows? And please, like right before your parole hearing, 2 months before, that's how much foresight you have. You then build a relationship with your daughter. Yeah, okay. I don't know. That seems a little bit. It's just not the way things work. You can have a relationship. We've seen how many thousands of parole hearings. There are those that have authentic relationships with their children on the outside, without, you don't even have to visit them. It's through phone calls. It's through letters, right? You, this is all you have is time on your hands, and it seemed that he didn't have the time for his daughter. And I just, I have people whom I'm very close with who don't have relationships with their fathers, and what I have seen through it is that the father can, with very little effort, get back into their life, because that's not, it's not the other way around, that the child is holding back and allowing, that's just my perspective. You might have a different experience. Of course, things aren't in absolutes, but anyways, what do we talk about this case? A few things that I want to talk. Now, there's no appeal, right? There's no court documents to show. Lady Holly did do her research as always on this case, and we have kind of like the entire breakdown and different articles. But I wish I could give more insight into how in the world, there's so many things. How in the world, though, does his brother not catch the same charges? They both were there together. His younger brother, or his brother, beats the police chief with a shovel, fractures his skull, while his other brother steals the police chief's 357 and shoots him twice. How are they both not in prison for life? I mean, we have seen it's so basic. In Louisiana, we have covered hearings where someone may stand lookout for a robbery. They never even go in the building. They'll stand just lookout for the robbery, for a robbery gone wrong that results in a killing, and they get life. It's just the same thing. I mean, we hear this all the time. Having any involvement in the crime, you'll get life. We saw even a parole hearing out of Illinois where all a guy did was send a text message to someone else saying, hey, he's going to have pot. And people went there and killed the guy, and he was serving the same amount of time as the one who pulled the trigger. So I don't know what is going on in Minnesota that they could possibly have been in this situation to feel that they would only charge him as as accessory. And I have no data or info that maybe his brother testified against him, which just would have seemed like the most pathetic deal to give someone anyways. but he was charged with accessory. He got out of prison in 2009. They kept bringing up his brother, like what they brought up the question 3 times about his brother, which makes me think there must be some type of info that they have on him. But I wrote to Holly. I said, Holly, can you find something? Is something going on? Was he locked up at the time? Did they maybe have recorded phone calls? Has he gotten into trouble with the law again? She found something where someone with the same name, the same state, had gotten in trouble with defrauding. I think it was unemployment, but it's just, I don't know if it's the same person. So it's just not enough of a smoking gun either way. Anyways, like how do you tie those relevancy? But there's a lot. So what Holly found, the family is very active in this case, and there's a newsreel of his widow talking just recently, saying, please, don't allow the parole board to grant parole to the man who murdered my husband. They have a petition. They had a petition. Let me screen share the petition with you. So this is a very active, people are still actively involved in this case. Why they don't speak, I still can't quite figure out what's going on with the Minnesota hearings. I have seen parole hearings where the victims get up and speak. So I don't know, could be the family chooses not to speak on record, but on camera, but they are speaking, of course, in letters and other correspondence. And also let's remember, Minnesota was not making these hearings public until recently. They actually only had a 1-member board. They didn't have a panel like this, and it was just the commissioner, who's commissioner now, and he would work with the governor and make these decisions on his own. I think actually, not even work with the governor. He'd make the decisions on his own. The governor signed off on it, and then they decided to change it and to make this board. And the family speaks in the newsreel and says, hey, I don't know how we feel about it being public. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not, but I would like to say it's good. The whole world can see how broken the system is. And in this case, at least they deny parole just for 2 more years. But 2 more years, let's remember, you put yourself in the victim's shoe, 2 years goes by very quickly. And the trauma of not, once the first year is done, then it's every month that counts down. You wonder, are they going to grant him this time? Are they going to release this murderer this time? And let's not forget, I know I'm jumping all over the place, but he had the opportunity in his final statement. He even wrote down his final statement. It wasn't like he impromptu'd it. And this was his 5th parole hearing. And he still couldn't use the final words as whatever it is, because I don't like the words. I hope the family can forgive me. I think that's horrible to say. He could have apologized and said, well, in so many words, I am sorry for taking the father, the husband, for taking his life. And there was no mention of it, nothing. And again, it just goes to show there's imagine reliving that experience. What went down on that day was terrifying. We see these stuff on body camera. I see a body camera of a police officer fighting for his life and losing the fight, and hearing the fear in his voice, and I can't get over it. I don't like watching this stuff because of that. It actually affects me. Now imagine being that perpetrator where this man is fighting for his life when all of a sudden he realizes he might die. And he gets hit over the head. And then these punks, and it's all over nothing. It's over nothing. It's over a DV call, which they say is one of the most dangerous calls a police officer can take, or domestic dispute DV. And then he steals his gun. And then when he's on the floor, when he said this himself, he said when he was pleading, and I thought he was about to say for his life, and I think he was, but he changed the words. He realized it wouldn't sound good for him. Pleading for help, he switched it to, but I think he was going to say pleading for his life. He shoots him, not once, but twice. It's a 2-on-1. He has the gun now. The man's on the floor. They're in their early 20s. He's in his late, I think, 40s. And they literally executed him. Then his brother doesn't get life, which is insane. He gets life, but with a parole eligibility after 17 years. Who writes the legislation? Who writes the legislation that you can execute a police officer and have parole after 17 years? Now, I don't know if they've changed their laws now. I guess I could Google it or grok it, but let's find out. Okay, I'm actually glad I checked. So they changed the law. They updated it. In Minnesota, parole eligibility, if convicted of killing a police officer, post 1993, mandates life without the possibility of parole. Before 1993, you would have parole, and it was a minimum of 17 years. So some lawmakers, you can't make this stuff up. At least they updated their laws here. Wow, disgusting. And because of that, this poor family has had to attend now 5 parole hearings. 5. And then he has the escape, right? He has the escape, which it's not like a normal escape. See, we've seen different escapes. We've seen all different kinds of escape. I remember there's one case that really strikes me. It was out of Angola in Louisiana, and it was what is that there was an older inmate who was in Angola for life but he already been in for 20 years, and then there was a new inmate that was only in Angola for a short sentence for robbery. He was 16. Somehow he got caught up with the older man. They kidnapped the wardens. They went into the warden's home because this home is on Angola premises. Pointed the gun, kidnapped the warden's wife, and so they're holding the warden's wife in an arm, and then they end up getting, and they take the warden and they go into the warden's truck, and they're with the wife and the warden, and I'm trying to remember exactly what happened, but they're driving out the front gate, and the warden ends up grabbing, because they took a gun from the warden ends up grabbing the gun and shooting and basically kills the older man, and he shoots the younger man. The truck slams into the wall. It's like a movie. So the older man dies in the escape attempt. The younger one, who was 16, who just had a few years sentence, who was somehow in Angola, loses his arm in amputation, is given solitary confinement for 6 years. This was back in the 70s. So if you can imagine being a 16-year-old kid in the dungeons of Angola without an arm, probably without any pain medication. And then he ended up having a parole hearing all these years later, and they still held that escape attempt against him. More so here, when they're like, well, this guy, he it was a long time ago. It was, what was it, in 2000? And thank you again, Lady Holly, for pulling all this info. It was in 2008 when him and 4 of the guys, let me show you this. I got distracted. Okay. I'll go over the escape attempt, and then we'll go over I realized that I forgot. Go over the flyer, the petition to keep him in prison that the family put together. So 4 inmates, 1 employee disciplined at the Bay Point Prison tunnel investigation. So here's our prints. 4 inmates, 1 employee, Bay Point, have been disciplined following close of an investigation into a 25-foot underground tunnel found there in February. So this was no normal escape. This is one of the crazier escapes. I don't think we've seen anything like this. It was the first attempt of its kind in the institution's memory. No inmates escaped. Inmate Dave blah, 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 with which each pled guilty to charges of aiding, advising, counseling, conspiring to escape prison. Further, the corrections department suspended for 5 blah blah blah. Whose name is title not released. Despite the oversight, the investigation led to the department's official office investigation concluded that no prison staff were involved in the attempt. In addition to the hammer drill, investigators said improvised tools to dig the tunnel into the basement of one of the 5 industrial buildings at the prison. A correction officer discovered that the tunnel at the base of one of the 2 abandoned cargo elevator shafts during February 6 security inspection. According to investigators, the inmate cut a hole in a door that blocked the shaft and then concealed the hole with a vent cover. As one inmate stood watch for correction staff, the others crawled inside the shaft using improvised tools, the hammer, drill, and electric lights in burrowing toward the prison west perimeter wall. The inmate disposed of excavating soil in the second elevator shaft. The tunnel, which officials described last winter as reaching within about 60 feet of the wall, was filled in March. So they got to 60 feet within 60 feet of the wall. Investigators remain unsure how long the excavation had been underway, and so the inmates refused to cooperate in the investigation. However, prior to the tunnel's discovery, they said at least 2 of the inmates had been assigned to industrial buildings since 2007. About 350 inmates worked in the 400,000 square foot building. So I wonder why he didn't catch more time for this. It makes me wonder again. This is someone who's parole eligible. It's not like he's serving life without parole when he tries to dig a tunnel. He's been given. He's since then has had how many more parole opportunities? 2 or 3. It's like it shows about how someone's. It shows their thinking, their impulse control, their criminal thinking, their antisocial behavior. Right? What's that? I don't think I'm antisocial. Think about the way he answered the drinking question. No insight. I am a happy drunk. Whenever I drink, other people get mad at me, and then I have to defend myself. It's like you have no insight. Again, this is your 5th parole hearing, all the time in the world to prepare for every question, and that's your answer. Everyone else is the problem when your crime occurred because you were drinking. It's just, I don't know how anyone could root for this person to get paroled. He's like, seems to me a clear, like an easy like case for someone who's going to reoffend. There's just nothing there. So let's go to the petition. And you can check out this website because it seems to be like an organization that does this. It's an Officer Down Memorial podcast. They also have a podcast if you want to check it out. I'll put the link in the description. Okay, thank you, Holly. So one of the brothers who killed Claremont Police Chief Greg George is once again eligible for parole. Sadly, for the 5th time, the Lane family must again fight Greg to ensure that this man pays the price for taking the life of their loved one and of the police officer. On April 11, 2025, Mr. Paul Schnell, Commissioner of the Department of Corrections, will be holding parole hearing of Combom. The Lange family needs our help. They need community written input, either letter submitted via USPS or mail. So as you can see, they're very involved in this case, and they have to live with the doubt or uncertainty of this killer being paroled. And now they're going to have to go through it again in 2 years for a 6th time. And again, Minnesota, at least they did deny him, but I can't get over the fact that he is going to continue. Like, why not stay for the maximum number of years? Maybe 2 years is the maximum they're allowed. I don't know. But it was a 3-2 vote. You can see here it's get the date wrong there, but there's a 3-2 vote. What am I missing? I feel like, let me pull up Holly's spreadsheet. You can see the hard work she puts into all these cases. So incarcerated since 1989. Here's the petition to keep him locked up. We have the video about the upcoming parole hearing, news about his last parole hearing. Here's where he literally dug out of prison. And again, his brother, who was let out in 2007. How is that possible? I don't know. And then we have Lady Holly's fact of the day, which is in North Carolina, drunk bingo is unlawful. Can you imagine legislators actually put into law that something happened in North Carolina where they said, we're going to have to write a law that bingo cannot be played if you're drunk. And it's crazy how many crazy laws there are, yet how few, it seems, rational laws there are. Let's put the bingo thing in. Why not?
And for the first time, this parole hearing will be open to the public.
There's so many layers to the onion when it comes to looking at parole hearings. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know how it's going to affect it.
In 2020, we spoke with Lang's wife, Sue. She carries a promise to her husband.
It was one of the last things that I promised him at the cemetery, was that we would fight for justice.